Hey guys, this is David Ellis from OneUp.com. I'm here with
Matt Leone.
also OneUp.com.
Absolutely.
Alright, we're going to check out the new God of War trailer. Hopefully, point out some details maybe you didn't see them on the first playthrough. Obviously, this video may contain content unsuitable for children.
The blood's a little too shiny. Your young eyes can't take it. Alright, so this is Mount Olympus off in the distance, and as the camera likes to zoom in really close to kind of show the sense of scale, they start in on a tiny little bird. You'll soon see this bird eat the eyeball of a character who looks a little bit like Nathan Drake. I asked the developers about this and they laughed at me. I'm pretty sure it's not a hey, we're the best looking game on PS3, so fuck you guys at Naughty Dog, but you never know.
Then again, the fact that the camera panned, you can't see the half tuck, might be.
Yeah.
So we see here, it looks like Kratos moving, and that your viewpoint is first person. So possibility, maybe might be some cinema, QTEs, or maybe actually gameplay where you actually play from a first person perspective.
Yeah, it would be weird if you were actually running this fast in gameplay, but certainly there's the possibility of doing some cinema stuff. But then, yeah, I mean, here's kind of where it gets interesting, because you start to see the enemies in a much bigger numbers than you've seen in past games.
And you see as he lands down his attack that it sets the ground on fire. And you said they talked a little bit about fire propagation and how it'll affect gameplay.
Yeah, so you have a fire bow, similar to the bow you had in God of War 2, but except now when it hits an enemy, they catch on fire, and then they can run into other enemies, and they can kind of create little clouds of fire, so it all kind of propagates and helps to hurt everybody else.
And of course, we see another move here where you actually slice one of the enemies with a blade in midair, and then are able to pull yourself up in the air.
Yeah, this is something they've kind of been hinting at since God of War 1. On God of War 2 put in the grapple system where you could use your blades to kind of get around the environment. Now you can use your blades to kind of get around enemies in a certain sense. So you can pull yourself up towards them, you can pull yourself down towards them. It's very much like moves you see in Devil May Cry 4 or the new Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Alright, so yeah, then the other part of Kratos' new kind of movement abilities is that he can do this little wall run with his rocket boots, as the developers were calling them. You can attack from the wall. You'll get different attacks than you will just normally running along. So in many cases, especially when there are multiple enemies on screen, I think it's going to be helpful to kind of control the herd and keep everybody where you want them in your combat.
Yeah, you have to wonder, will it, because he took that Centaur down quickly, will it be kind of like Ninja Gaiden 2 where you kind of had like a finishing move on enemies? Will you be able to do that?
Yeah, like we saw in one scene that they showed in this media presentation that the Centaur is essentially the leader of these drones, and then once he kind of shows up, they start paying attention more, and they become smarter and work more as a group. So it certainly seems like they won't be the easiest thing to take down in most cases. And in God of War 1, where the Centaur also was, it wasn't the easiest enemy just to kind of knock out like that. So that might have just been for the trailer, I'm not sure.
You see a big Cyclops, big set of chains on the ground, and Kratos has got to fight his way through an army to get there.
He hates those chains. As you see this group here of enemies, this is the first kind of, hey, this game has a lot of enemies. That's kind of the big, or one of the main features that this game has over previous God of Wars, and that's why things like the movement abilities that we're talking about, and what you're seeing here, where he can put an enemy on his shoulder and ram him through other enemies. All these things kind of add up to give you different ways to take on these bigger groups.
Yeah, and you see he uses the enemy as kind of a battering ram to make his way through like a big horde.
And that was his choice. You can pick up an enemy and you can run forward with them, or you can throw them through other enemies to kind of go bowling, or you can carry them over to a wall and bash their head against it. So it certainly kind of gives you options as far as how you take these guys out.
And you see he's got I guess we're referring to him as like Cestus.
The Cestus heads, yeah. And the interesting thing there is you see these rings behind the heads that he kind of shakes, and they kind of knock together. So what you want to do with these guys is you want to actually make contact with an enemy, because when you do, those rings shake together really violently and create this kind of suction that pushes everybody back.
And of course, you can also use them to take down huge kind of blockades like these chains right here that Kratos is going to smash his way through. And you also see as soon as he smashes, he's changed what they're referring to as stances or weapons, which will alter gameplay a little bit. And you see it's instantaneous using the D-pad, real time. He has switched back from the Cestus head back to his blade set.
Yeah, each weapon kind of has different little abilities that come with it. Like, see, there you can dodge to the side. That's a move that you don't have that kind of replaces the evade, the roll that the right analog stick does. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how much kind of each weapon changes the rest of Kratos.
And the first time I saw this trailer, I just assumed when you're on top of the Cyclops, it's basically a QT and you're bashing buttons. But you said no.
No, they love them some Golden Axe. You're controlling that thing, and you know it falls over. It's sloppy. It's hard to control. But you are using it to take out these other enemies. It's an intentional thing.
You see the background. You see what you thought was a huge mountain, and it's shaking violently, and that causes the entire landscape to tip over from horizontal to vertical.
Right.
Feels a little bit like Shadow of the Colossus, maybe.
Yeah. I think they mentioned some inspirations there, just as far as the scale goes. But certainly, you know, this is a much smaller enemy here. But then, as the camera zooms out in a few seconds, you'll see.
Luckily, harpies fly by to save Kratos' life. What does he do? He stabs it in the throat. Of course. That's how he rolls.
Yeah. He's got to hang on somehow. But you can use use your blades to actually kind of control the harpies as you're flying with them. We saw one scene where you had to jump from harpy to harpy to cross this big gap. But you know you can stab them upwards to move up a little bit, or you can stab them forwards to move faster. But then you stab them too many times and they die. So it's kind of a nice little balance.
Imagine you stab them and they die.
Yeah, I know.
And of course, as the camera pans around, you see what you thought was landscape, mountains, everything like that. It's actually a huge titan as his head tilts around, and you see the chain that you broke is now like shaken free, which allows him to continue moving up Mount Olympus.
Yeah.
And you see other titans. You see one on the right, and you'll see one on the left further ahead, and they're crawling up towards the top of Mount Olympus for their inevitable encounter with Zeus at the top.
Yeah, it's exactly where God of War 2 ended, except now it's all in gameplay and it's all what you're doing for this game.
At the end, they have a little bonus for you if you really hate harpies, because Kratos comes flying in and finally gets to finish the harpy off. And you see him diving down towards, so it looks like he's in control here. Maybe there might be some gameplay as he's diving towards another titan.
Could be.
As you make your way along up towards Mount Olympus. So.
Yeah. There are certainly things like you can, if you use your Icarus wings, you can move vertically. So who knows if there would be something similar if you're falling.
And of course, this is coming for the PlayStation 3, possibly later 9, early 2010. We don't really know yet.
Likely one of those.
Yeah. Guess we'll find out at E3.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned to OneUp.com for all the latest God of War trailers and features. And we'll see you next time.
We love us some God of War.